Oh, it's truly surprising that these famous stars turned out to be notorious alcoholics behind the camera. Michael Landon, Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, and even Dean Martin. All of them faced significant troubles due to their addiction. Some even came close to losing their careers because of it. Let's take a look at the list of these struggling stars here. Michael Landon. Michael Landon carried a secret struggle with substance abuse that remained largely hidden from his colleagues and fans. Known for his wholesome image, particularly as Charles Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie, Landon's private life was far more tumultuous. While his colleagues were somewhat aware of his drinking habits, the extent of his consumption was something they never fully grasped. On the set of Little House on the Prairie, Landon managed to seamlessly weave his addiction into his daily routine. He would clandestinely add whiskey to his coffee or vodka to other beverages, disguising the presence of alcohol with an effortless air of normalcy. His ability to function at a high level professionally likely contributed to the veil of secrecy surrounding his habits. To outside observers, he appeared focused, charming, and in control, a testament to his dual life as a consummate professional and a man battling addiction. The drinking didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. After a day of filming, Landon frequently sought solace at the local bar, continuing the cycle of indulgence. Despite this, his behavior on set remained professional, which may have further masked the severity of his struggles. His co-stars and crew saw a hard-working actor and a leader who guided the production with skill and charisma, unaware of the private demons he was facing. Melissa Gilbert, who played Laura Ingalls, Landon's on-screen daughter in Little House on the Prairie, was especially close to him. To her young eyes, Landon was a father figure both on and off the set, yet she remained oblivious to his covert behavior. As a child, she didn't recognize that the coffee mug he often carried might contain more than coffee. Reflecting on her childhood years later, Gilbert acknowledged how Landon's secretive vodka sipping left a subtle but lasting impression on her. "I'm sure he's one reason why I almost always picked men who smelled like alcohol," she remarked, highlighting the subconscious influence of her early relationship with him. Landon's battle with substances extended beyond alcohol. He also struggled with a dependency on painkillers, compounding the toll on his body. This was further exacerbated by his heavy smoking habit. Landon reportedly smoked 4 packs of unfiltered cigarettes daily, a staggering amount that likely contributed significantly to his declining health. The combination of alcohol, painkillers, and chain smoking created a dangerous cocktail that would eventually have fatal consequences. In 1991, at the age of 54, Landon was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, a disease known for its aggressive progression and poor prognosis. His lifestyle choices, particularly his smoking habit, were widely believed to have played a role in the development of the illness. Despite his diagnosis, Landon faced his fate with courage, making public appearances and sharing his journey openly with fans. His death later that year was a tragic loss to the entertainment industry and to those who admired him. Richard Burton. At the height of his alcoholism in the 1970s, Richard Burton became infamous for his drinking habits, particularly his staggering consumption of alcohol. It is hard to fathom, but at the peak of his addiction, Burton was consuming 2 to 3 bottles of vodka per day. This level of consumption not only contributed to his notorious reputation in Hollywood, but also played a significant role in shaping his life and career during this tumultuous period. Burton's relationship with alcohol was deeply intertwined with his identity, his public persona, and his personal struggles. Burton, who was once regarded as one of the most talented actors of his generation, became as famous for his heavy drinking as he was for his roles in films like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and Cleopatra. As his alcoholism spiraled out of control, he showed little concern for the public's perception of his drinking. In fact, he almost seemed to wear his alcohol consumption as a badge of honor, brazenly flaunting his habits in a way that both shocked and entertained the Hollywood elite. In an industry known for its indulgent excesses, Burton stood out for the sheer audacity with which he embraced his addiction, drawing attention to himself with little regard for the consequences. One of the more memorable anecdotes that illustrates Burton's unapologetic approach to drinking came when he was working on a film and made a point to inform the director that he would abstain from drinking during the shoot. This declaration was met with a mixture of surprise and amusement from those who knew him well. However, Burton quickly clarified that abstaining, in his terms, meant that he would limit himself to just 1 bottle of vodka per day, which to him was a modest reduction from his usual intake. For someone with the capacity to consume 2 to 3 bottles of vodka on a daily basis, this restraint was seen as nothing short of extraordinary, though it hardly qualifies as sobriety by any conventional standard. But perhaps the most shocking of all was Burton's own reasoning behind his drinking habits. He had an astonishingly twisted view of what constituted sober behavior. Burton once asserted that he considered himself sober when consuming 2 bottles of vodka, believing that he only became truly intoxicated when he reached the 3-bottle mark. In his mind, the line between moderation and excess was drawn at an almost incomprehensible threshold. This mindset, a form of rationalization, was characteristic of many individuals struggling with severe alcohol addiction. It was an example of how Burton had internalized his dependence on alcohol, viewing his excessive drinking as not only acceptable but somehow within his control. Burton's alcohol consumption was not confined to just a personal indulgence. It affected his professional life as well. His once promising career began to suffer as his addiction took hold. Directors and producers were forced to navigate his erratic behavior on set, with many reporting that Burton's drinking led to long delays, missed work, and problematic interactions with his colleagues. His ability to perform, which had once been lauded by critics, was often compromised by his drinking, yet he continued to take on roles, further cementing his reputation as a man whose off-screen behavior was as legendary as his acting talent. His drinking was also closely tied to his emotional life, particularly his tumultuous relationships. Burton's marriage to Elizabeth Taylor, one of the most high-profile and dramatic unions in Hollywood history, was fraught with intense emotional and psychological struggles. Their shared love of excess, both in terms of their public personas and their private indulgences, often found expression in alcohol. For Burton, drinking became an escape from the emotional turbulence of his life, a way to numb the pain of personal conflict and the pressures of fame. In this way, alcohol was not just a means of indulgence, but a coping mechanism that fueled his self-destructive tendencies. Burton's drinking also alienated him from many in Hollywood who might have otherwise supported his career. Although his talent was undeniable, his alcoholism made him an unpredictable and difficult figure to work with. His reputation as a heavy drinker overshadowed his professional accomplishments, and the chaos he brought to the set, combined with his erratic behavior off-screen, created a sense of unreliability. This ultimately affected the trajectory of his career, with roles becoming less frequent as Burton's personal issues became more pronounced. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe did struggle with substance abuse throughout her life, though it is often debated how much of her challenges were related to addiction versus mental health issues and the pressures of fame. Monroe was known to have battled with prescription drug abuse, particularly in the form of barbiturates, which were often prescribed to her for anxiety, depression, and insomnia. She was also known to have occasionally consumed alcohol, though it wasn't the same level of dependency that often accompanies addiction. However, Monroe's use of substances, particularly sedatives, contributed to her erratic behavior, health issues, and personal turmoil. Her struggles with mental health, including depression and anxiety, were well documented, and many of those close to her reported that Monroe often felt isolated and overwhelmed by the pressures of her career and public life. In addition to her substance use, she had a series of failed marriages, and her personal life was marked by instability, which may have exacerbated her struggles. Marilyn Monroe tragically passed away in 1962 at the age of 36, with her death officially ruled as a probable suicide from a barbiturate overdose. Though some conspiracy theories persist, many believe that her substance abuse, combined with her emotional and mental struggles, played a significant role in her early demise. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was also a figure whose personal life was fraught with struggles, many of which remained hidden from the public eye until later in her career. For many years, Taylor battled alcohol addiction and a dependency on painkillers, substances that complicated her life both professionally and personally. The pressures of fame, coupled with the intense emotional turmoil from her tumultuous relationships, played a significant role in fueling these addictions. Throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, Taylor found herself at the mercy of her vices, a situation that was far removed from the glamorous image she projected on screen. In 1983, Elizabeth Taylor made a groundbreaking decision that would not only change the trajectory of her own life, but also have a lasting impact on the broader conversation about addiction. She became the first major celebrity to voluntarily enter the Betty Ford Center, a renowned rehabilitation facility founded by Betty Ford, the wife of U.S. President Gerald Ford. The Betty Ford Center was established in 1982 to help individuals struggling with substance abuse, inspired by Betty Ford's own courageous journey to recovery after battling alcoholism and addiction to prescription medications. At the time of Taylor's decision to seek treatment, addiction was still a deeply stigmatized issue, especially for public figures. Celebrities were often expected to maintain a flawless image, one in which struggles with addiction were hidden or ignored. Taylor's choice to enter rehab marked a significant break from this tradition, as she publicly acknowledged her issues with alcohol and prescription drugs. Her decision to voluntarily seek help, despite the potential damage to her public persona, was both courageous and groundbreaking. By doing so, Taylor not only took the first step toward her own recovery, but also became a trailblazer for others struggling with similar issues. Her time at the Betty Ford Center in 1983 was a transformative experience. Taylor faced her addictions head-on, and by all accounts, it was a turning point in her life. As one of the most famous women in the world, Taylor's decision to enter rehab sent a powerful message to her fans, peers, and the world at large. Addiction was not something to be ashamed of, but a disease that required treatment, support, and compassion. Taylor's openness about her struggles helped to destigmatize addiction in Hollywood and beyond, signaling a shift in how the public viewed those grappling with substance abuse. Prior to Taylor's public acknowledgement of her addiction, many celebrities remained silent or secretive about their struggles, and treatment was often seen as a last resort. But Taylor's bravery in seeking help gave others the permission to do the same, contributing to a broader cultural change in the way addiction was understood. After her successful rehabilitation, Elizabeth Taylor emerged from the Betty Ford Center not only sober, but with a renewed sense of purpose. Freed from the grip of addiction, she rediscovered her voice and found a new cause that would define the later part of her life. In the 1980s, the AIDS epidemic was wreaking havoc, particularly among the gay community, and Taylor became one of the most vocal advocates for AIDS awareness, prevention, and research. Her decision to enter the realm of activism marked a dramatic shift in her public life. Taylor had always been a passionate individual, but now her energy was channeled into fighting a cause that was close to her heart. Peter O'Toole. In a candid interview with David Letterman, Peter O'Toole openly discussed his relationship with alcohol, attributing his drinking to the societal norms of his generation. "Drinking was just what we did," he explained, reflecting on a time when alcohol was a staple of social and professional life, often consumed with little regard for the consequences or daily obligations that might follow. O'Toole's perspective on alcohol was unique, as he believed it could enhance his performances on the silver screen. Whether this claim stemmed from genuine conviction or tongue-in-cheek bravado, it aligned with his reputation as an actor who lived as boldly as the characters he portrayed. His storied career included numerous tales of on-set antics, fueled by what he jokingly referred to as liquid courage.